There are almost now, I think, 17 listed hospital companies in India, and their financials are publicly available. If you see the ARPOB that we track, right, the average revenue per operational bed per day, most of these big city hospitals would do about 80,000 to a lakh, some are even more than 1 lakh rupees per day. An Ayushman patient on an average gives you 8,300 rupees ARPOB, right? So that is less than 10% of what the ARPOBs are of big city hospitals. So treating Ayushman patients is unthinkable for them.
So, Dr. Shuchin, you have built one of India's largest hospital chains, maybe say focused on tier 2 and tier 3 towns of India. How did you start the journey, maybe say setting up your first hospital?
No practice. I was still studying. I was studying to be a gastroenterologist. So I am, for all you can say, I am a certified college dropout. This is what attracts investors, right?
And even today, when you spoke about phase 3, I couldn't help but realize that you again called out the fact that somebody should not be selling their house to be able to pay for a cancer treatment.
With the rise of Ayushman Bharat, how do you see the payer mix evolving in tier 2, 3, 4 markets over the next 4-5 years? And do you think for a hospital to survive in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city or a town, Ayushman Bharat would be an essential element for their survival?
If I can build a daycare surgery program with minimal antibiotic usage, zero infections, zero complications, zero readmission rates, only then can I hope to earn money if I'm operating a patient for 15,000 rupees. So if you think that you have one hospital, you are running it, and a PE will now come and invest into it, you think it's a daydream. So government and other private insurance players will continue to put pressure to drive down prices. And if any organization can crack this to solve for these issues at lower prices, I think there is no limit to what they can achieve. So I think it's not just the accessibility, it's everything. It's accessibility, awareness, availability, affordability, appropriateness, accountability. And Ayushman is actually addressing a lot of these issues.
Doctor, I just love the word star doctor when the way you described it. I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our audience.
So if you're a star doctor, doesn't really mean that you'll be a very good administrator and will be able to delegate a lot of things to others. So opening multiple hospital entails giving up on a lot of your privileges, lot of your capabilities, and understanding that addressing an emergency call at 3 a.m. for an emergency surgery is sometimes not really the best use of your time. Because star doctors want to do that, right?
Welcome to Navig Health Podcast. At Navig, we discuss about various facets of the Indian healthcare ecosystem, ground level challenges and opportunities directly from operators and leaders working in hospitals, pharma and medtech companies. Our guest today is Dr. Shuchin Bajaj. Dr. Bajaj is the founder and director of Ujala Cygnus, a hospital chain that's redefining healthcare delivery in India's underserved towns. With 21 hospitals across 5 states, Ujala Cygnus has pioneered a model of affordable yet quality healthcare in locations where such facilities previously didn't exist. Dr. Bajaj's journey is deeply personal. Born to refugee parents, he gave up a promising career in Delhi's top private hospitals to pursue his vision of equitable healthcare access. After completing his MD in internal medicine, he built Ujala Cygnus from the ground up, creating a sustainable model that delivers advanced procedures like cardiac surgeries and joint replacements at just 20% of large corporate hospital cost. His academic credentials include fellowships from prestigious institutes like INSEAD, King's College London, and Stanford Seed Transformation Program. He is also an active healthcare investor and mentor in the startup ecosystem. Today, beyond running Ujala Cygnus, he serves as an advisor to several national NGOs and has worked closely with both state and central government health ministries. His work demonstrates that providing high-quality, affordable healthcare in India's smaller towns isn't just necessary, it's possible and profitable. We are honored to have Dr. Shuchin Bajaj share his insights on building and scaling hospitals in Tier 2, Tier 3 towns of India. We welcome Dr. Bajaj from the entire Navig team.
Dr. Shuchin, welcome to Navig's Health Podcast. We look forward to having a wonderful session with you to discuss various aspects related to the Indian healthcare ecosystem and specifically the dynamics of building a successful business in smaller towns in India. So for the next 45 odd minutes, the objective is to get insights about your experience and learnings you would have gained while building Ujala Cygnus as a brand in the last over a decade, more than a decade now, I believe. So we will begin by exploring some of the questions around your journey, maybe say right from starting the first hospital to maybe say how you have reached to like 20 plus hospitals now. and there are a few other questions which are broader in perspective, just to trying to get some of your perspective around the overall evolving healthcare ecosystem in India. So we are sure that our audience is going to love the discussion that we are having with you today. Thank you on behalf of the entire NAVIC team and our audience for joining us today. Again, welcome, Dr. Shuchin.
Thank you very much, Chirag, and thank you, Dr. Jyotsna, and the entire NAVIC team for having me here. I don't know if I can share a lot of successes or share a lot of good stories, but yeah, of course, I'll be very happy to share my experiences. And if we can inspire even one doctor to go and set up hospitals in small towns where they are actually needed, I think this podcast and the time spent on it by all of us would be a great success. So really looking forward to having this chat with you. Thank you once again.
So Dr. Shuchin, you have built one of India's largest hospital chains, maybe say focused on tier 2 and tier 3 towns of India. If you can divide this journey into 3 phases, I know it's going to be a bit long answer, but I would say this would set the context of the discussion that we are planning to have. So phase 1, how did you start the journey? Maybe say setting up your first hospital. Then phase 2, the initial expansion from first hospital to second hospital, and maybe say to 5 hospitals. And then maybe say phase 3, which is more of a growth phase, where you have moved from 5 hospitals to the current 20 plus hospital units that you have. And while you are answering, if you can also highlight the key reasons for choosing to expand into smaller towns versus the metro cities. Unlike most of the other large corporate hospitals, they have chosen to work solely in metros, maybe. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think like all other entrepreneurs, I also was an accidental one. I come from a family that was, typically in those days, not a very high resource family. My parents were refugees into the country. So my father started out by actually living in a horse stable with 15 other people and making kites for a living. And he decided very early on in his life that the only way out of poverty was education. So he thought that I'll educate myself to get out of poverty. See, various people decided on various paths. Somebody went into business, somebody went into, government jobs, somebody did something, but he decided very early on that I'll study. And so, but the problem was he was living in a very constrained space, like a horse stable is hardly 10 feet by 5 feet area, right? With 15 other people. And he had kites that he used to make. So studying was difficult because day was spent in making the kites. The night when he wanted to study, he would get beaten up because the lamp was keeping others awake, and they were also finding it risky that the lamp may set the kites on fire and then they won't have anything to eat. So then he found a rope from somewhere and he climbed onto the roof of that horse stable, tied that rope, and he went there to study. So set up a small shanty for himself with some plastics and tarpaulins and cardboard and everything. And he studied there. He stayed there for a very long time. He got married on that roof, and then my sister was born when my parents were living on the roof of that horse stable. So my father's favorite dialogue was always, study hard, otherwise you will have the roof under your feet like I had and never over your heads. So we studied at the peril of death, because he was a very strict father, as I think every father should be. We are not that. So that I sometimes miss those days, when fathers were like terrorizing figures and we would just run away when he used to come home. So we studied. Luckily, I got into a government medical college where my annual fees was 413 rupees. I still remember that number. And then I did my MD in internal medicine. So since we didn't have a really, a domicile kind of place to speak of, because, as refugees, they didn't have too many papers in place. So I kept roaming around through this all India entrance that we had. So I went to Bombay to do my MBBS. Then I went to Rohtak, Haryana. Then I went to Jodhpur to do my MD in internal medicine. Came back to Delhi and I joined gastroenterology. So I was back in Delhi after many years, and most of my relatives still stayed around Delhi, towns in Haryana, Yamunanagar, Panipat, all of those. And since I was back in Delhi, I used to now start getting calls as the only doctor in the extended family that, somebody's had a heart attack, somebody's had a head injury, we are bringing them to Delhi, can you help us in some way? And they were all still struggling to get out of poverty. Most of my cousins actually still are. Somebody runs a fruit stall, somebody is a car mechanic, one is a bus conductor. So still trying to, fight out of that. So on the one hand, I felt very nice that, I could now help these people as the doctor in the family. But on the other hand, it always kept troubling me somehow that, these people were traveling 5-6 hours in borrowed jeeps, vehicles, bringing the patient to Delhi. And sometimes they wouldn't turn up, and I would get to know that the patient died on the way. If they would turn up, they would have trouble paying, and then it would be like, we have to sell the house, we have to sell the fields or something like that. So these kinds of problems always kept cropping up. And one day I suddenly decided that, being another doctor in Delhi in addition to 20,000 doctors wasn't going to really make a difference to anybody's life. And this was where the real need was, this was where trouble was. And it was not just poor physical outcomes, it was poor financial outcomes that were equally, troubling for the communities there. And we know even today, more than 6 crore people sleep below the poverty line in India just due to an unexpected healthcare shock. So this is what I started out to solve with no money, of course, in the bank. So.
And this was after how many years of your practice? Maybe say
no practice. I was still studying. I was studying to be a gastroenterologist. So I am, for all you can say, I am a certified college dropout. This is what attracts investors, right? If you're a college dropout, investors are very happy that, But I did complete my MD in internal medicine. So I did not become a gastroenterologist finally. I just dropped out very quickly and started doing this. So luckily, met my co-founder was exact thought process like me. He also had relatives in small towns. He also faced similar problems. So he said we should do this. Luckily, we found good investors on the way who believed in this model, even though it was quite an impractical model at that time. People refused to believe that you could have ICUs in towns like Karnal, or if you could have cath labs in towns like Kathal. I mean, they were like, this is not possible, right? It is. And people were like, ulti ganga baha rahe ho tum, chote shahar se log bade city mein aate hain, you are already in Delhi and you are trying to go back. Who does that, right? So, but I think the good or the bad thing in entrepreneurial mindset is that you see only a very limited field of vision, right? You just zone out everything else to the peril of madness. So I think we were also of the same mindset. No, we thought of this, let us take a chance, let us take a risk. So this is how it started, and luckily we found good people on the way. Luckily we found good investors on the way who really believed that this was possible when nobody else was believing this. So this is how we started out. Then we reached about 9 hospitals in Delhi and outskirts of Delhi and Haryana, 2 in outskirts of Delhi and 7 in Haryana. In 2019, we had 9 hospitals. We had 3 more senior doctors who had joined us as co-founders. My brother also joined as co-founder and chief of operations of our hospital. He was the MBA in our group. We were all doctors and we really didn't know much about. So he taught us that, what a private limited company is and how you should, start this and how you should do the back.
That was after maybe say 9 years. I mean,
no, that was after the second hospital. My brother joined in and he was the business mind. And so he taught us how, we started the company after the second hospital actually. Till the first hospital was all just random work that we were doing, the 2 of us doctors, and in somebody else's name, the landlord used to own the entire thing. And this whole model of frugal innovation of not owning the hospital, not owning the land building, doing everything on rental or revenue share came out because we had no money. We could never afford to build hospitals. I mean, if you would have heard our initial budget discussions were, oh, this month we want a nebulizer because kids are coming and they're all sick and it's winters, but we also want a glucometer because people are coming with diabetes. So but glucometer is 1100 rupees, nebulizer is 1500 rupees. We can only buy one of them. Which one should we prioritize? This used to be like a 1 hour meeting for us.
Wow.
So now if at that time you had told me that you'll be one day doing a 700 crore revenue and your budget meetings would be like 50 crore, 80 crore, I would have really laughed in your face saying that, these are not numbers we have even dreamt of, let alone seen.
Understood.
But as I said, we were lucky, right? We were just lucky that maybe we were a little bit early in our times because the ecosystem had not formed. I remember when we opened our Karnal hospital, there used to be zero mortality in Karnal. So if a patient were to die, the nursing homes would immediately send that patient to Chandigarh, that, we can't afford to let a person die here because it is too risky. So we were the first ones who accepted that we are treating critical patients. We have an ICU, we will have some mortality. We were the first ones to open a cath lab in that town. In most of the towns, we have been the first ones. Still, in most towns, the only ones. And in 2019, we met Amar Ujala, which is a media company, and they had one hospital in Uttarakhand, in Kashipur. And luckily, there was this immediate meeting of minds, because Amar Ujala has been around for 75 years since India's independence and has worked in communities that we were trying to work with, has a great not-for-profit arm that works for healthcare. And we understood that we were trying to work with same communities, we were trying to work for the same people in different states. So Amar Ujala joined us as a strategic investor, and they held about 40% of the company at one time. And that is how we got renamed from Cygnus Hospitals to Ujala Cygnus Hospitals. And after that, with that investment, we expanded quickly into Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu and Kashmir. So the second phase was more into communities that we were unfamiliar with, because we were familiar with Haryana, as I said earlier. So we were in Haryana, but communities that actually needed more healthcare, but we were too maybe scared to go there because we were not very familiar with the law and order situation, or what it was going to be in Uttar Pradesh, whether we could find doctors there or not. And Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar, we were the first ones to go, right? So then we became really adventurous, that, we should go where nobody goes. So this is how the second phase has been 2.0 of what we've done. So we expanded quickly from 9 to 23 hospitals. And now 3.0 is just starting. So a big private equity firm called General Atlantic has invested into us in April of last year only, just about 8 months ago. And so now my all co-founders, everybody, promoter fatigue is a real thing. So unfortunately, we lost our brother in the COVID days. But every other co-founder exited, because it is, after all, a very stressful business. But Amar Ujala still stays there as a minority partner, and General Atlantic now is a majority partner. So our focus continues to be on larger hospitals, but with more and more super specialities, including cancer. Because as I said, poor physical outcomes and poor emergency outcomes is not the only trouble. The real trouble comes with poor financial outcomes. Because once you are in the hospital, selling your house and land is something that is, I feel, quite unpardonable from our sector's point of view. So if you have cancer, most big, the linear accelerators, etc., are only in big hospitals. And big hospitals don't really usually accept Ayushman cards or other government schemes, right? So, and you have to go and stay in the big city to be treated in the big hospital. All cancer therapies at least last for 28 days, if not 48 days. So staying there for 2 months, paying out of pocket, is a difficult thing. So this will be our next focus in the coming year, to focus a lot on cancer. So this will be our third phase of expansion.
Sure. I think a related...
If I may just come in, Chirag, at this point, Dr. Shuchin, I know this may deviate a bit from our agenda, but I cannot help but call out the fact that you have shared the human element of your story so beautifully. I want to take this time to call out the fact that somebody who has probably come up the hard way, if I have to put it in that terms, I think you probably learned the entrepreneurial spirit very early in life. And it probably stood you extremely good stead throughout the journey, even though you describe it along 3 phases. And even today, when you spoke about phase 3, I couldn't help but realize that you again called out the fact that somebody should not be selling their house to be able to pay for a cancer treatment. And I just want to call out the fact that there are not too many entrepreneurs who share humble backgrounds, and far fewer who actually learn the lessons from it and openly talk about it and continue to live by them. Thank you so much for bringing that out in this podcast. I'm sure it would resonate with very many doctors, especially doctors who very often come up the hard way. You mentioned about going through the entrances not having the papers. It's something a lot of doctors identify. We have papers and we still don't get through the entrances. But I just want to pause and say thank you for sharing that wonderful story with us. And if you would just, at some point in this podcast, if we have the time, give a bit of advice to people, either doctors or non-doctors, on how certain values and principles in life, what you've learned, should be your guardrails and north stars, even however far you go. If you would touch upon it now or later in the talk, it would be great.
Thank you very much for your kind words, Dr. Jyotsna. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it. See, moral guide rails are something that have to be, as you correctly identified, the North Star, whatever you do. So I realized that the organization that we have wasn't really founded for monetary terms. It was not a planned business decision, right? I would have earned a lot more if I had become a gastroenterologist. A lot of my friends are, and it is, I never hear the end of it from my family that, what you did. My father, I remember when I dropped out, my father was so mad because he was, as I said, fully bent on education. Education is the only thing that, will take you anywhere. And when I didn't do this, he was like, people spend crores of rupees to get a seat like this. Because you're getting it for free, you are not really appreciating it, and there is no one a bigger idiot than you are. And he stopped talking to me for a very long time. So he was like, no, this is madness what you are doing. So I see, so the organization was founded for some particular reason. So you have to stay grounded to them. You have to make sure that you are still treating each and every patient that comes into the hospital, because you were started to save lives. It was because people were dying on the way or people were selling their houses. So those are the people you are still addressing. So you have to make sure that you stay grounded to that. So we still treat each and every patient that comes into the hospital. If any patient is turned back due to financial reasons, it is a fireable offense. And you cannot turn back a patient because the patient doesn't have money. There is no questions on that. And we have always been the champions of Ayushman Bharat scheme, when no other corporate would even touch an Ayushman patient because the rates are too low. See, there are almost now, I think, 17 listed hospital companies in India, and their financials are publicly available. If you see the ARPOB that we track, right, the average revenue per operational bed per day, most of these big city hospitals would do about 80,000 to a lakh. Some are even more than 1 lakh rupees per day. An Ayushman patient on an average gives you 8,300 rupees ARPOB, right? So that is less than 10% of what the ARPOBs are of big city hospitals. So treating Ayushman patients is unthinkable for them. How will they treat them for cancer or any other thing? So we are ones who have started to show that it is not impossible to do this, right? You can do this and still be earning decent enough profits. We don't get any grant or aid from anywhere. We are not a charity. We are not a trust. We are not a society. We are a private limited company, right? We have to answer to our investors, but we still show that this is possible, right? It's not impossible to do this. So this is something that we have been really focused on and will always remain focused on. So this is something that is our guardrail. This is our moral guiding, that we are here to serve a section of the community that has access issues. So it is our lifetime aim to dissociate high quality access to high quality healthcare from financial, geographic or social reasons. So if you are poor, you should not die on the road, or you should not be deprived of healthcare. That is what our aim is. That is what we are here to solve.
No, I remember, Doctor, I think you have been very passionate about Ayushman Bharat. I think this was one event, I think Scale Up Health Meetup that was organized by 8 Roads Ventures in Mumbai. And it was a panel discussion, and I think a lot of other members, at least the doctor owners, it was not possible for them to work in the, I would say, budgets that Ayushman Bharat is offering. And then you did mention that, okay, we have built up processes. It might be because of economies of scales and everything, but you have been very passionate. So one question around that. So with the rise of Ayushman Bharat, how do you see the payer mix evolving in tier 2, 3, 4 markets over the next 4-5 years? And do you think for a hospital to survive in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city or a town, Ayushman Bharat would be an essential element for their survival?
So, see, Ayushman Bharat doesn't only push you to do low cost work, it also pushes you to do very high quality work. It can sound like an anachronism, but let me explain it to you. See, Ayushman Bharat, unlike any other government scheme of the past or any parallel government scheme, is very clear that they are going to pay you a package rate for anything and everything. So there is no open billing that I will treat a patient, so these are the bed charges, these are the tests that I did, so we'll add on to that, these are the medicines, so we'll add on to that. Nothing like that. They say if you are doing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, 15,000 rupees is your package. This is what you're going to go get. Okay. I am not concerned whether you put 15,000 rupees of medicine in this patient or 1,500 or 1.5 lakh. I have no concern, right? So it is the hospital's benefit if the patient comes in, gets the surgery done, goes out quickly. There is no complication, there is no infection, patient doesn't stay for long. So if I can build a daycare surgery program with minimal antibiotic usage, zero infections, zero complications, zero readmission rates, only then can I hope to earn money if I'm operating a patient for 15,000 rupees. If this patient needs antibiotics, or if this patient stays for 4 days, or if this patient needs to go back to OT because his stitches got infected, I am done for. I start losing money immediately. So your focus on high quality work has to be then limitless. You have to keep focusing on how to cut infections, how to cut stays, and this is in everything because everything is packaged. Right. So Ayushman, this is what, after that panel, I was on the panel with Dr. Nachiket Moore. So we both wrote an op-ed on this after that, which got published in the center page of very prominent newspapers on how you should see Ayushman as pushing quality up, not pushing cost down. So this is a way to look at it, right? And we have been champions of this scheme ever since the start because see, our focus was treat everyone. Earlier, these people had no one paying for them. Now at least somebody is paying something for them. Not very high cost, but at least something. So for smaller towns, you have to be very clear that community cannot afford to pay a lot. And this is why you have hospital occupancy issues everywhere, right? If you're running a healthcare organization, the entire story of Indian healthcare is built around scarcity. We have less number of hospital beds, we have less number of doctors, we have less number of nurses, everything is less. If everything is less, why is hospital occupancy at 60% or 50%, and why are actually some hospitals are paying doctors to send them patients? Patients are being sold like cattle sometimes, between hospitals. It's a sad reality. If itna scarcity hota, then why is this issue? This issue is because it's not that Indian healthcare is just underserved. It is under-accessed as well. Our hospitalization rates are amongst the lowest in the world. Our surgical rates are amongst the lowest in the world. The Lancet Commission for Surgery says an LMIC country like India should have about 5,000 surgeries per 100,000 population per annum. Right? And this number can go as high as 23,000 in countries where out-of-pocket expense is very low and awareness is very high, like Scandinavian countries. Even for Brazil, the number is 13,000. How many surgeries were held in India last year? Only about 2.5 crores. So our number is only 1,500. Where are the other 3,500 people? They're not getting operated because either they don't know a surgery is possible, or they can't afford it, or they can't go to it. Classical A's of healthcare get lost everywhere, right? Awareness, access, availability, affordability, appropriateness, accreditation, everything leads to patient loss. So we go to villages a lot even now. I go to villages every week. My team goes to villages every day. And every time we see this, patient's old woman lying on the cot, They're saying, oh, she's old, so she can't see, she can't walk. They consider it normal. Who is to tell them that a cataract surgery can make her see in 15 minutes, a joint replacement can make her walk in 2 hours? This is the problem, right? So the community cannot pay is a reality. So if you are trying to set up a hospital in a small town, I mean, you have to make sure that your prices are within the reach of the community, whether it be through Ayushman, whether it be through any other third party payer or out of pocket, doesn't matter. But you cannot hope to do 50-60,000 RPOP there. You will never earn any money if you build your hospital according to a 50,000 RPOP reality. It is impossible to do. Right? So you should tune your services and your offerings in the way where you are happy at a much lower RPOP and where you are earning money and the community is also having good quality services. But a caveat, as I said again, building for the poor does not mean that you build poorly, right? You cannot afford to compromise on quality in healthcare. Healthcare is very, very sensitive and word goes around very quickly in a small town if you have poor quality, right? It is like running a low-cost airline. I can't say my fares are low, but 2 out of my 10 planes will crash. But come, nobody will come, right? Nobody will come. So you have to offer very high quality, and we walk this talk on a daily basis. It's not like I am saying our hospital is this, but then I will go treated at a big city hospital. That doesn't happen. All our hospitals are NABH accredited. My daughter was born in one of our hospitals. My son has had 3 surgeries in one of our hospitals. So we are very confident that what we are offering to the people, we use ourselves. So this is something that you have to walk the talk on a daily basis to inspire your team members as well. That they should be confident of getting their family members treated in our hospital. Only then can you offer high quality services.
So if I may just step in here with one comment and one question. You alluded to the fact that quality and cost need not be inversely proportional. And that's something you called out very specifically, that the Ayushman Bharat sort of prevents it from happening. We often have discussed about the iron triangle in healthcare, right? Cost, quality, and accessibility. And would you say somewhere that setting up in a tier 2, tier 3 city and using the Ayushman Bharat does allow us to break out the shackles of that triangle? And secondly, how does one, it seems a little anachronistic again when you say that the number of surgeries in India is abysmally low, and yet our occupancies are also low, 50-60% occupancy. So where is it that we are missing the point? Is it the accessibility part of the triangle? And also, what else beyond Ayushman Bharat then?
So I think it's not just the accessibility, it's everything. It's accessibility, awareness, availability, affordability, appropriateness, accountability. And Ayushman is actually addressing a lot of these issues. Accountability, it is now addressing by insisting on having an NABH certification for each and every hospital that is allowed to offer Ayushman patient services, which is a good thing, right? Quality is always a good thing. I believe that investing in quality will pay you 100 times returns as you go forward. Investing in technology will pay you 1,000 times more returns, right? If you have a phone of older times where you used to do a rotary dialing, that phone may be very cheap, right? But to make a call to the US on that phone used to cost you a month's pay for 5 minutes. Right? And now the phone that you have must be much more expensive in technology wise, but since you've invested it, you can speak to the US like for free for 24 hours a day, right? So your costs go down a lot if you invest in technology. I remember when I started out, I used to be what I call a P2P person, right? So PN to promoter everything. So used to do everything in the hospital. So I used to be the main doctor also. Used to get a lot of this because I was very young when I started. I used to get a lot of this. The bade doc sab kab aayenge? When will the senior doctor come? I was like, this is all you paid for. This is all you get. So I used to go at 3 a.m. in the night a lot of times because of a patient who had come with chest pain, who was not getting better, and the residents couldn't really understand what the ECG was, right? Because reading an ECG is one of the most complicated things in the world, right? I remember reading around, studying 4 or 5 books in my MD time on ECG, and even now I make mistakes sometimes. So reading an ECG and interpreting it is a very difficult task. So I would go in the middle of the night and the ECG would be normal. And 1 week this happened like 2-3 times. Going, and I was sharing this pain to another doctor that yeah, our residents are so ill trained. They don't know how to read an ECG. I've taught them like 100 times. Every time they call me at 2 o'clock, patient is sick, right? We don't know. What is ECG, sir? Looking like normal, but we don't know. So then I have to go. So I got introduced to this magical new ECG transmitting software at that time called WhatsApp. So there is this software that can actually transmit photos of ECG. Wow, what is it? WhatsApp? We don't know. So we got this technology, right? And that now saved me so many trips in the night because they could now transmit that picture of an ECG to me. And now, of course, we have so many, other things, transmit pictures of CT scans, MRIs, everything is transmissible. You can do a video call to show the patient that this is what is happening. So technology always gives you so much bigger returns, right? So investing in quality, investing in technology is something that all entrepreneurs who are trying to set up low-cost solutions should keep at the top of their minds, and not something as अच्छा है अगर कर लेंगे तो. Because sometimes you're scared of investing in technology, saying it is too expensive, I am treating poor patients, I am going to treat at low cost. This technology is not for me. It is to the contrary, really for you. So I play badminton a lot, and I got this lesson early on from a player who was senior to me. He said, you are an okayish player, right? You are not a national, international level player. So you need the best rackets. A national player can play with anything, even a broken racket, he'll win. But you need the best rackets, right? Because you really need to play out of your skin to qualify at a Delhi level or something. So we are okayish players in small towns, not big brands. So we need the best of instruments to help us to offer good quality services.
Doctor, we are seeing that a lot of there is significant private equity, VC investment, and even M&A that is happening in the Indian healthcare lately. So for doctors who are currently maybe say running 1 or 2 hospital units and who would want to explore external funding, so what are the options that are available to them? And even before they decide to approach to a VC or a PE fund, what metrics and aspects of their business they should have in place? And maybe say, what is the step number 1, or what is the process for them to get started with?
So see, the problem is everybody is now so enamored by this PE investment environment that they really forget why PEs invest in businesses, right? PEs invest for extraordinary growth. They believe that out of 10 investments that they make, 2 or 3 will fall off completely. 3 or 4 will, make okay returns, and 1 or 2 will hit it out of the park where there'll be 100x growth and they'll make the real money there. So if you think that you have one hospital, you are running it, and a PE will now come and invest into it, is really, I think it's a daydream, right? Because a PE is not coming to invest in one hospital that will become 2. They are really thinking that this one will become 10 or 20 or 30 or 50, and that is where all their bets lie. So sometimes we overestimate what a PE is capable of doing. Meaning that, okay, we have one hospital, PE will come and invest. Having one hospital is not really enough for them. They want to create a full ecosystem of 5, 10, 15, 20 hospitals, and then maybe make it into a platform of 3, 4 of such coming together and doing 50. So you have to showcase that you are capable of running more than one, preferably 2 or 3, before a PE comes in. Because running one hospital where you are the doctor, you are the owner, you are the promoter, everything is very different from running another one where you are not hands-on, right? And running 3 is even more complicated. The more number rises, the classical principal agent conflicts start coming into play, right? Because you are the principal, now you have to employ agents everywhere, and the incentives of agents sometimes are very different from what the incentives of principals are, and you keep thinking like a principal always, right? So sometimes the best players are not the best captains. Sometimes the best captains are ones who are aware of their own weaknesses and aware of what the other person's capabilities are, right? Like, that is why I feel Ganguly was a much better captain than Tendulkar. Because Tendulkar was such a great player, he thought everybody could play like him, and he got upset when people couldn't. So if you're a star doctor, doesn't really mean that you'll be a very good administrator and you'll be able to delegate a lot of things to other people. So opening multiple hospital entails giving up on a lot of your privileges, lot of your capabilities, and understanding that addressing an emergency call at 3 a.m. for an emergency surgery is sometimes not really the best use of your time. Because star doctors want to do that, right? They want to feel the knife, they want to see the patient on the OT table, they feel that they are the ones who will give the best care. And they find it sometimes difficult to let go and delegate to other people. And that is why a post-heroic leader is sometimes needed instead of a heroic leader who tries to do everything themselves. So if you want to get investment, my suggestion to you would be to step back a little from your clinical role, just a little. Try and make sure that you still hold a lot of people accountable for quality and service, and try and open a couple of more hospitals in addition to the one you have, and prove that this is a scalable model. Or you build your current hospital to such a large scale that it becomes an investable model, and you can show enough headroom in the current hospital to the incoming investors.
Got it.
Doctor, I just love the word star doctor when the way you described it. I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of our audience. Whatever you described fits it to the T. But just to draw back, a little digression. What is it that makes Indian hospitals attractive all of a sudden to the private VCs? What's changed?
So, see, any country with a rising population and rising income level both will be attractive to all industries, not just hospitals. Hospitals, I think healthcare is one of the last to climb on this bandwagon of the massive investment flowing into the ecosystem. You see the stock market where it was 10 years earlier, where it is now. You see the number of organizations that have become billion-dollar organizations. So healthcare is just a corollary of the rising income levels and the rising population of the country as such. And people can afford to pay for high quality work. People can afford to pay for healthcare access. As I said, still the gap is so high. Still the number of surgeries compared to what the Scandinavian countries are doing is around 10%, less than that. So you can have a 10x increase in your hospitalization rates, your surgical rates. There's still this huge gap left. Just see Uttar Pradesh, where we work, right? One of the states we work in is Uttar Pradesh. 75 districts there. Population of 22 crore people, more than European Union. So 22 crore people, the number of healthcare services you see there, the number of hospitals compared to what Europe has. Potential is that, right? If you combine Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, it's like the United States of America. Compared to the healthcare services there, what do you have here? So that is where the actual potential is, still that level. So people see that, right? And the next 10 years or maybe more than that, so by 2047, if you want to become Viksit Bharat, healthcare has to be at the center of everything. You can't have a fast growing economy, that's a sick economy. If people are sick, you can't have an economy that grows fast. So healthcare will be an integral part of this growth, and private equity players do understand that. That is why this focus on healthcare services, and especially in the Bharat as we call it and not the India, the small towns where we are, I think we are right at the hotspot of increasing demand because of rising insurance, rising age limits, rising disposable income. and supply as well, because of the increasing medical colleges, the increasing medical seats that the government has. They've already doubled the seats in the last 5 years. So all these doctors also have to go somewhere, right? So this increasing demand and increasing supply will come together for organizations like ours. The only catch is pricing pressure will continue because of increased insurance penetration. So government and other private insurance players will continue to put pressure to drive down prices. And if any organization can crack this to solve for these issues at lower prices, I think there is no limit to what they can achieve. As I said, if we inspire even a couple of them to go and open hospitals in small towns where really the need is, right? Even today, if you see, India has almost 800 districts. More than 500 even today do not have access to any emergency tertiary service. So if you have a heart attack or a head injury or a critical illness in 500 districts of India, you have no choice but to drive out, and that drive could be anywhere between 1 hour to 5-6 hours depending on where you are. And I feel that is unacceptable, right? That is totally unacceptable, that people lose their lives because there is no hospital there. So we have to solve for that, and huge 500 hospitals you can set up and then go out, right? Africa has a similar need. Almost all of South Asia has a similar need. So the potential is immense, and if people can solve for it, I mean, it would be great. And I can't do it, of course. You have to have 10, 20, 100 more people to come up and solve for this. If we can inspire some of them to do this, it would be wonderful.
So again, thank you so much for your time, Doctor, on the Navig podcast. We wish you and Ujala Cygnus the very best from the Navig
Thank you
team.
very much. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you so
Jyotsna.
much.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you so much.
Very much. I enjoyed this conversation.